but it stands for the Hypertext Markup Language, which is invented in the 1980s. Basically, it allows you to put in special tags, we call them, which a browser will recognize the tags and will use it to mark up. That's why we call it Hypertext Markup Language. We'll use it to mark up somebody's trying to chat with me. Sorry, I'm late. Yeah, that's fine. The markup allows the text and images to be displayed in the way you want. So HTML allows for the internet to work, basically, the web. We would call it the web. The internet was before the web, but it's what makes it's the programming of the web. The basic thing that holds it together is the HTML. And now I probably said other things make the internet work. They all kind of work together, right? But HTML, every page that's on the internet is an HTML page. Now, they might not be saved as an HTML page. They might be saved as a PHP page, but PHP has HTML with it. Or PHP is in a HTML file. We just save it with a different name. So I told you about tags. These are an example. Now, there's no tag called tag name, but you imagine the tag, whatever tag it is, and you put its name there. So you could have an HTML tag, you could have a head tag, you could have a body tag, you could have a paragraph tag. There's lots of different tags that we could have, but they typically work in pairs, two of them together, and the stuff that's between them we call the content, and altogether we call that a HTML element. This thing here, the wireframe, and as I said, you can look at this video, take your time later. I'm just going through it quickly now. But wireframe is just a tool that you use to help you design a web page. And so you're going to have lots of different looking wireframes. This is just an example. And typically, if you're making a website which is going to work on mobile phones and on desktops, you'll have more than one wireframe for each page, because you will display the page differently on a mobile phone than you do on a desktop. And so the wireframe is how the things are going to be set out on the web page. Now this is a nice image, I think. It actually shows you bare bones. This is a skeleton of an HTML file. And so it's got the very, very basic things that must be in an HTML file. So you must start, well, somebody's going to tell me that they made a web page without doing the doctype.html and it worked. Yeah, okay, maybe. But our practice is that we always use a doctype HTML. So if we get a strange browser, that it knows that this is a web page. Then we have HTML tags. You have two of them, and everything that's going to be part of your web page is going to be between them. Now, this one here, we've separated it into a head and the body. The head is where we put stuff, which is instructions for the browser, how to work with the HTML. And the body is where we put the stuff that the user is going to see. When I say the user, I mean the person who's looking on the internet at your web page. In this one, we've got a title. Title is quite an important thing there in the head. The title will actually show up in the bar at the top on your browser. So, you know, each browser window's got a little bar there, and the text that's there will be whatever you put in the title. So that's quite important. You're going to have a website that's got many pages in it. Each page should have its own title. And then when the user is working away in your website, they can look up at the top and see where they are in your website, what page they're on. So that's kind of useful. Now, these other things, H1, that's a type of heading. Whatever's inside there will be bolded and big. There's H1 through to H6, and H1 is the biggest one, and H6 is the smallest one. P for paragraphs. We put all our paragraphs all inside P's, and then we can style them all together. We'll talk a lot about styling later, not so much now, but a bit later. All right, so here's some stuff. It talks about semantic elements. These ones we sort of inside the body, or as the example here uses main, but inside the body, the stuff that the user is going to see when they click on the web page, we use these kind of tags. we make these up, and you can make up other ones. Just call them whatever you want, right? You could set up a couple of tags and call it, you know, Mickey Mouse or whatever. But so these are, you know, they're a little special, but not terribly. Nav is going to be navigation bar. It's where we're going to put that. Header is going to be at the top. Footer is going to be at the bottom. Sections. We have this thing called div too, div, which stands for division, and we'll be using that a lot more than sections. But basically, with a section, we can break off one part of the website or web page from the other. Yeah, so those are those. The header at the top of the page. So if you looked at the wireframe, you would have seen that it had a bar across the top, which was the header, and a bar across the bottom, which was the footer. So the idea is that maybe you've got a website that's got many, many pages to it, and then all of them have the same header. So, I mean, a lot of this stuff, header, footer, nav bar, the idea is that we have consistency. Maybe we've got a website with many, many pages in it, and all the headers will be the same, and all the footers will be the same, and all the nav bars will be the same. And that just makes the website look a bit more professional, makes it look like somebody thought about it. Okay, so yeah, consistency. Yeah, and so that's easier to do if we have something that sort of links them together. So we have a bunch of header tags, and we put them at the top of every document, and a bunch of footer tags, we put it, and the stuff inside is more or less the same. And that makes websites look nice. And so nav tag, this is going to be on every page. And in between the nav tags, you're going to have a bunch of hyperlinks. Hyperlink means that you're going to have something, either an image, or it's going to be a bit of text that's highlighted differently than the other text. And when the user clicks on it, it's going to navigate them to another place. Now, in a website, we need them to be able to navigate around the website, you know, to the home page, to some other pages. And then from those pages, you need to be able to navigate back to the home page and to the other pages. And so we use a nav bar for that. It's just going to be in between the tags. We're going to have a whole bunch of links, and we'll have them organized in a way which is nice, with pictures or colors or whatever. And it'll be the same on every page. And so by making the nav bar, the nav tags, and surrounding the stuff that's going to be in there, we can make that consistency. Notice I've been talking about consistency a lot. We like that in our websites. The main tag, many web pages are made without a main tag. There's another tag that we use, which is kind of the same thing, which is the body tag. It doesn't matter. I use a body tag. And basically, the body tag is where I just put everything that the user is going to see. So as opposed to the stuff in the header, not the header, the head tag. So we got to make sure that we understand there's a difference between head and header. Header is that thing that's going to be at the top. The user's going to see it. The head is before the body or the main, and it's not seen by the user. It's just instructions for the browser. Now the footer, that is going to be seen by the user. And it's the same idea as the header. It's just going to be at the bottom instead of the top. So this is actually, I showed you a minute ago, bare bones skeleton of a website, we'd say, and design. This is actual HTML code. And so this would be a website. If we entered this into a editor, and then we then opened that in a browser and saved it as an HTML, we would see, what would we see? We'd see this text. It would say place header here. Then there'd be some words there. All of these words we'd see. This stuff here at the top, we would not see because that's in the head. Only the stuff that's not in the head can be seen. Yeah, and so, but the web page title, that would show up in the tab, at the top in the tab in the browser. Yeah, so that's kind of looking at, and the idea why it's showing the wireframe. We design the wireframe, and then we make the web page to match the wireframe. So notice how in the wireframe we have the header first, and then the nav, and then the main. And so likewise in the HTML, we do it in the same. So yeah, okay. These tags, we start off our HTML document with the doc type HTML so that the browser can know that we're working with HTML, what to do with it. We can do HTML tags without the language, but maybe you have a different language that you want to do your website in. You know, maybe you want it in Arabic, or maybe in Chinese or Japanese or something like that. They're going to have different characters. They're even going to go in a different direction. Well, here you could say that. Actually, also in the head, you would have a chance to state what kind of fonts that you wanted. So you could use your Arabic fonts if you wanted. All right. So yes, in the head, this is where we do these things, like we put the title. We can do styling in the head. That is where we say, well, this paragraph is going to be this color. These images are going to be this big. This heading is going to be that color. The background is going to be like this. All those things we do in the head. Well, you can actually do them in the body, but it'd just be really ugly. So we do them in the head between style tags. So we have this tag called a style tag. In there, we write CSS, which is cascading style sheet code, which styles the rest of the document. Meta tags, meta means about or around, something about. So that the meta tags is just going to be stuff about your website or about your web page. And so that's where you do things like here it says here you use keywords and author and stuff like that. Somebody wanted to use a Google search and you wanted them to find your web page, then you might put some keywords in there that you think that they might type into their search, so that when they type those keywords in, that your web page comes up, because the search is going to look for keywords if somebody has put keywords into their document. Other meta tags are actually involved in some kind of programming. And I think, yeah, we've got the, so I mentioned about using it, maybe we're using Chinese characters or Japanese characters or Arabic characters. There are character sets for those. So you can put a HTML tag in the, a meta tag, which will allow you to choose a different character set. You can choose your key. So in this case, we've used the keywords in a meta tag so that we hope that when somebody types in puppy, that their Google, in a Google search, that our website will come up. Got a really cool one here, which is the viewport. And what happens with the viewport is that the browser will send to the program, so the programming is happening in the browser, right? But the browser will be able to know what is the size of the window that the browser is working in. And based on that, then you can say run this HTML or run that HTML. So you can run a different HTML or a different CSS depending on what your viewport is. And you could run different JavaScript. So you guys may have heard of JavaScript. JavaScript we can use to program our website. Also PHP we can use a little bit, but JavaScript's really quite nice. If you guys become software students and go on and do the software stream, some of you will, then you'll be doing a lot of programming in JavaScript. So you'll have HTML files in which you'll be writing JavaScript. And some of that you might be doing some JavaScript that's based upon what is the window size. So how is that important? Well, supposing the window size is small, as in a mobile phone, then you would have the page look differently than if it was big, as in a desktop. And so you can tailor the way the things look depending on what size. The title I talked to you about, that's going to show up in this tab at the top of the browser. And so that's going to help the user to know. User can always look up there and see what page they're in by the title. So we got some other tags there. The body tag, that's where I always put everything that I'm working with. Everything that I want the user to see. H1 through H6, the headings, and they're always going to come out sort of by default bold. And H1 is kind of big, and H6 is a little smaller, but still bold. This is a very important one here that we're looking at there. That is, can we put in a comment? So when you're doing a programming language, sometimes you want to have stuff in the file which is not processed by the program. And so in HTML, what we can do is we can put comments in our code this way. And notice how it is. It's actually kind of, you have to do it exactly like that. You have to do a less than sign, a exclamation mark, 2 dashes, and then at the end, 2 dashes and a bigger than sign. And then anything that's between those will be ignored by the browser. So that's just where you can just type whatever you want. BR for break. You can put that to add a new line into your page so that you can add, you know, to space things out. Do that between paragraphs if you want. It's kind of a cool idea. HR is going to give you a horizontal line. So if you put that just in the code, you're going to get a line drawn across that part of the page. P for paragraphs. Yeah. Image. The image tag is really quite an important one. You can't just cut and paste an image and stick it in the HTML document like you do a Word document. You have to have a link which shows where that image is. That image has to be saved as a file, and you have to have a link which goes and finds that image and then displays it. And that's done with the IMG tag. And the IMG tag has an attribute called src, which is then going to say this is where that file is. Now, in this case, the mickeymouse.jpg file, that would have to be in the same directory of the where this HTML file is. If we wanted it in a different directory, we'd have to say where that directory is. So commonly we'd do something like this, .. then go to images or something like that. That would mean that the Mickey Mouse image is in the images directory, which can be found by going to the parent directory and then go to the images directory, and then you'll find, and this is typically how we do it. We don't just throw all of our files into one folder. We usually organize the website so that we know where we put all the images in one place, and that's sort of just easier to edit, fix, maintain a website if we have things organized properly. And there's some of you that are really good organizers, I know. Somebody's mentioned that they were triggered by my by my page at one point. Yeah, so if you're an organizer, you're going to be big on this. If you're not, try it anyways. If you're not, you need it more so. What I'm talking, when I say big on that, what I'm talking about is on folders and putting all your files in a certain folder. These things here, I don't even think you need to worry about those because we've got other ways of doing this. We've got other ways of doing italics, other ways of doing strong, bold. If you're just in a hurry, you just want to have something in italics and it's only one-off, this is going to be italics. Yeah, okay. Use an I tag or an EM tag, and that'll give you that. All right, so that is that part of what I'll put this on D2L as well. I'll make a video of this. But what would happen is if we were in our browser, we would see this web page and we would see how it's created. But the important things are there. We've got our little tag at the start, which is our doc type tag, and then HTML. Now notice so in Visual Studio Code, so when I highlight on the bottom here, do you see the top one is grayed out as well? So you can see just by, and when I highlighted on the head, the other head, and see how we've tabbed them in together, and the style likewise. So all this stuff here in the head, that's just to make things look right. Then the actual page is just this table, and this table is kind of a tricky one with row spans and stuff like that, which I'm using for another class. Index.html will come to this minute. Whenever you create a new website, the home page, we don't call it home.html. We call it index.html. And because when we navigate to your home directory, we don't even need to say the name of the HTML. Just going to that directory will automatically, by default, open up the index.html file. I'm going to run out of time in a minute, so I'm kind of slowing down here. I realize that I haven't really sort of covered all of that. So I'm going to make a little video for you. Yes. Okay. How do you know? So, sir, do you need, you don't need to use Notepad. You can. I wouldn't use it. I won't be using it. All right. I won't be using Notepad. I will be using Visual Studio. You know what? You could use Notepad. You could use brackets. That's why I showed you those. And I won't know the difference. I will not be able to know which one you use. So you use the one that you like, because there's no marks for using Visual Studio, right? I mean, I can't even know, because the file that you save is all going to be HTML or CSS files, and that's all we see. So I don't know that what you're using. People on the internet don't know what you're using. It's just up to you. The only reason to use Visual Studio instead of Notepad is if you think it actually helps you. I think it does, because it's got some things that Notepad doesn't have in the way that it works. It's just a little easier to work. If you haven't used any editor, then might as well use Visual Studio, and you're going to jump right into it. And that's what you'll be using when you go onto your software development courses. Now, how much time have we got left in this meeting? Not much. It came up with a warning 10 minutes said before we end. Are there any other questions? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through that practice and show you how it's done by video. And I will post that video to D2L in a few minutes. Maybe you have, but that's what your exercise is today. There is a Dropbox for you to put that in there. So go ahead and do the exercise, which is just really entering in some code into your editor. And yeah, that's it. Any questions? I got a chat here. Oh, you're welcome, Najla. Thank you. Oh, well, let me do this then, because I don't think we've had any more students here today than now. It says there's 21. So just make sure that I got everybody. So Shad's come since so I'm going to take a picture of that. I'm going to try to, if I can get to my, no. Come on. No. Never mind. I got another way of doing it. Okay, so any other questions? If not, I guess I'm going to end the meeting. I kind of ran out of things to say. So is that okay? I hope so. I'm going to end the meeting. No, nobody's saying anything, so I guess so. So do look on HTML. Sorry, on D2L, you will see some further instructions. Okay?
Thank you, sir.
Bye, sir.
All right.
Yeah, okay.
Good.